Keep Right with Ralph K. Ginorio. Dangerous delusions. Certain illusions are fatal. Stepping off a cliff into open space because you have hypnotized yourself into really believing that the bridge, which you so very much want to be there, actually is there, is merely but one example of a fatal delusion. For decades, I smoked unfiltered Camel cigarettes, denying all health risks until about 20 years ago, I began to cough up blood in the mornings. Then I stopped. That involved a potentially fatal delusion that I had spun for myself. Today, I suffer from a self-inflicted form of type 2 diabetes, but I have thus far categorically refused to modify my lifestyle beyond a very limited point. I am now living this delusion. These are pernicious delusions, self-chosen falsehoods that I have determined to treat as if they were real and true. Gosh, I'm a fool. However, if misery loves company, then I should be a very happy man. Our present day West, our present day society is consumed by fatal self-delusions. While many of us strive to live in truth, the predominant spirit of our times is dominated by ideologues who counterfeit their ideas, marketing them to the rest of us as if these ideas were objective reality. These delusions, purveyors of delusions, these deceivers demand that the rest of us live within their lies if we want to avoid being punished. Any student of history will recognize such a demand. The Babylonians demanded that the Hebrews abandoned Yahweh and instead worship their god Marduk. The Sanhedrin demanded that Jesus of Nazareth concur with their convictions by betraying his own. The pagan Romans demanded that early Christians sacrifice a pinch of incense to the emperor once every year to acknowledge his divinity. The Spanish Inquisition demanded that all Jews who had remained within Catholic Spain abandon every aspect of their faith or be tortured at the auto da fe. Entire German cities were wiped out in the 30 Years' War because they were not of the same denomination as the occupying army force. Totalitarian communists and National Socialists murdered tens of millions who did not, and honestly do not, conform to their dogma. These are but a few examples of a form of intolerance that has inspired much violence throughout our recorded history. While every society demands a certain loyalty to a few core principles, these zealots insist that everyone bend the knee. Today, we are told by the precious elites, the beautiful people, our best and brightest, that homosexuals and transvestites deserve full normalization without limit, no matter the effects that such untrammeled normalization would have on children, families, women, or the health of our society as a whole. The wildest dreams of the most extreme theorists on these matters must be embraced without objection. Or else. Pre-adolescent children must be groomed to consider that there is nothing out of the ordinary about drag queen story hour. In fact, these adult men who parade their sexuality in front of innocent children must instead be celebrated as being somehow heroic, as desirable role models. Biological and social cues that are as old as human society must now be denied, even reversed, for the sake of fully normalizing homosexuality and transvestism? Parents who object to the premature and deviant sexualization of their innocent children must be classified as domestic terrorists, or else their resistance might actually stand in the way of the new theocratic LGBTQ plus agenda. Such parents must have their roles eclipsed by the state and by actors like radicalized public schools, all for the sake of the children. Well, it's really for the sake of the activists. Famously, At a Summer Olympics that opened with a celebration of drag queens at the expense of Christians, a female athlete was seriously injured by a transvestite man who had been celebrated as he participated in female boxing matches. On another occasion, Peyton McNabb was permanently, partially paralyzed in a volleyball game by a male transvestite who was permitted to play with the females. This woman's life will never be the same because the powers that be prioritized the theocratic LGBTQ plus agenda over the safety of their athletes. These women's stories are but two examples of girls and women who've had their dreams shattered and sometimes their lives destroyed by the ideology of fully normalizing homosexuality and transvesticism. Fanaticism in service to the gospel of LGBTQ plus is celebrated, while anyone who raises the slightest objection is castigated as a bigoted thought criminal and punished as a traitor against all that is good. This must stop. It is good that homosexuality is no longer a crime. It is better that people who are homosexuals are no longer hounded from their families, their vocations, and their communities. We are a tolerant society. However, like a once abused child who becomes an abusive adult, many self-appointed leaders of the LGBTQ plus community have relished an enthusiastic persecution against heterosexual people and traditional society. Today, homosexuals are the persecutors of anyone who declines to celebrate them. A person's desire to be accepted as what they are and who they are not more important than the needs of children, families, women, and society as a whole for objective reality and the traditions that stem from it. We must stop tolerating LGBTQ plus intolerance. A biological man remains a man, even if all of his wishes revolve around being treated as if he were a female. No biological male should be permitted to transgress on those parts of society reserved for innocent pre-sexual children or biological women. Among adults, LGBTQ plus lifestyle choices should be tolerated as an example of our society's belief in freedom of action, conscience, and speech, especially among adults. However, their dangerous and delusional desire to rewrite everything in other people's lives, in other people's perceptions of reality, so that they conform to the dreams of full and unlimited normalization of homosexuality and transvesticism, must not any longer be permitted to harm any potential victim.